The moon called Velt sat far from the main hyperspace routes, a quiet place where the sky stretched wide and the land rolled in soft amber fields. Farmers rose with the sun and worked until the stars appeared, living by old rhythms and simple rules. They had heard of the Motherworld, of course. Everyone had. Its empire spread across the galaxy like a shadow, swallowing planets in the name of order. But Velt had been spared. Until now. A transport ship cut through the clouds one morning, its engines roaring louder than any storm. It landed near the village, crushing grain beneath its metal weight. From it emerged soldiers in gray armor, carrying weapons polished to a cruel shine. At their head was Admiral Noble, a man whose calm smile never reached his eyes. He announced that the Motherworld required grain to feed its armies. Velt would provide it. The villagers listened in silence as he spoke of quotas and deadlines, of consequences if they failed. The elders tried to reason with him. They explained that their harvest barely sustained them through winter. Noble listened politely, then ordered his soldiers to make an example. A farmer who spoke too loudly was shot in the dirt. Blood soaked into the soil that had fed generations. The message was clear. Compliance or death. Among the villagers stood a quiet woman known as Kora. She worked the fields like everyone else, kept her head down, spoke little of her past. But as Noble's ship lifted off, her eyes followed it with something sharper than fear. She knew the Motherworld better than anyone here. She had once been one of them. That night, the village gathered in hushed voices. They knew they could not meet the demand. Starvation awaited them even if they tried. Kora finally spoke. She told them the truth. The Motherworld would return with force. The only chance was to fight back, and to do that they needed warriors. Not farmers with tools, but soldiers hardened by war. She offered to leave Velt and Re. The ship drifted in silence after the escape, engines throttled low to avoid detection. Sparks flickered from damaged panels, and the smell of burned wiring filled the narrow corridors. Everyone felt it now. The Motherworld was no longer a distant threat. It was actively hunting them. Titus took control of repairs, barking orders with the authority he pretended not to miss. Guna watched him closely, seeing flashes of the general he once was. Nemesis remained apart, sharpening her blades with calm focus, while Turok stood near the viewport, staring into the stars as if searching for something he had lost long ago. Kora studied a star map projected onto the table. There was one more person she wanted to find. General Belisarius, the man who had raised her within the Motherworld, now believed dead by most of the galaxy. Rumors placed him in exile, commanding loyalists from the shadows. If anyone could help them understand how to fight the Empire, it was him. But finding him meant reopening wounds Kora had tried to seal forever. They diverted toward a remote world layered with ancient ruins and broken satellites. The planet felt haunted, littered with the remains of forgotten wars. Belisarius was there, older, heavier, but still sharp. His eyes softened when he saw Kora, then hardened just as quickly. He listened as she explained Velt and Noble's demands. He warned her that Noble would not stop with grain. He would make an example of Velt to crush rebellion before it spread. Belisarius offered strategy, not soldiers. He told them how the Motherworld fought, how it broke enemies before the first shot was fired. Fear was its greatest weapon. Kora asked him to come with them. He refused. His war was over, he said. But before they left, he gave her something far more dangerous. The truth. Noble was not just enforcing orders. He was seeking promotion, power, recognition. Crushing Velt would be his proof of loyalty. That ambition could be used against him. As morning came to Velt beneath a sky stained with smoke. The fields that once fed the village were torn apart by craters and fire. Bodies lay wrapped in cloth, lined near the old storehouses. There was no time for long grief. Everyone knew what was coming next. Kora gathered the fighters before the sun fully rose. Faces were bruised, eyes hollow with exhaustion, but no one stepped back. Titus explained that Noble would escalate. He would strike harder, faster, aiming to break morale. Their only chance was to strike first, to make Noble lose control. Scouts confirmed it soon after. Noble's forces were moving artillery into position near the hills, preparing to flatten the village. That was the opening they needed. If they could destroy the artillery and capture a command relay, they could disrupt Noble's coordination and force him into the open. The group split into teams. Nemesis led a small strike force through narrow ravines, moving silently toward the artillery. Turok took villagers through the tall grass, positioning them to cut off reinforcements. Titus stayed back to coordinate defenses, while Kora prepared for the most dangerous task of all. Drawing Noble out. Gunnar insisted on going with her. Kora tried to refuse, but he stood firm. This was his home. If it fell, everything he was would fall with it. She finally nodded, placing a weapon in his hands and meeting his eyes with quiet respect. The attack began with an explosion that shook the ground. Nemesis struck first, tearing through the artillery crews with ruthless efficiency. Flames rose into the sky as cannons detonated. At the same time, Turok's fighters ambushed advancing troops, using the terrain exactly as Titus had taught them. Confusion spread through the Motherworld ranks. Noble watched the chaos unfold from his command ship, fury breaking through his composed mask. This was not supposed to happen. Farmers were not meant to fight back like this. He ordered ground forces to press forward and silence settled over Velt in a way it never had before. Not the peaceful quiet of harvest evenings, but a heavy stillness shaped by loss. Smoke thinned as fires burned out, revealing fields scarred beyond recognition. The villagers emerged slowly, helping the wounded, searching for the missing, counting the dead. Kora stood at the edge of the battlefield long after the fighting ended. Noble's body had been taken away, wrapped without ceremony. There was no relief in his death, only finality. She knew what it meant. The Motherworld would not forgive this. It would regroup, rewrite the story, and return someday with even greater force. Titus joined her, his armor damaged, his face lined with exhaustion. He told her the villagers had won something rare. Time. The Motherworld hated public failure. It would take time before it acted again, time Velt could use to prepare or to run. Kora looked back toward the village and knew running was no longer an option. This moon had chosen its stand. Nemesis helped rebuild defenses, showing villagers how to turn ruined machinery into weapons and shields. She spoke little, but her presence gave people confidence. Turok worked among them as an equal, no longer a prince or a symbol, just a man earning trust through effort. Gunnar moved differently now, quieter, more focused. The innocence he once carried was gone, replaced by something harder but steadier. A gathering was called at dusk. The villagers stood together as one, farmers, fighters, elders, and children. Kora stepped forward, unsure how to speak to them now. She told them the truth. The Motherworld would come again. The cost of resistance would always be high. But so would the cost of submission. An elder answered her before anyone else could. He said they had lived quietly all their lives, believing that peace came from being unnoticed. That belief had nearly destroyed them. Now they understood that peace had to be defended. Velt would not beg. It would stand. That